Cinema has always had an obsession with revenge. We love to watch the scales of justice balance themselves in blood. But every so often, a film comes along that doesn't just ask you to watch a revenge mission. It forces you to breathe its smoke. Released in May 2026, Alicia Harris's featured directorial debut, Is God Is an absolute lightning strike of a film. It is a genre-fluid, Southern Gothic, Afro-surrealist spaghetti western that arrived in theaters with a blistering 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, and then, tragically, completely vanished at the box office. Audiences slept on it, the algorithms ignored it, but today we are going to fix that, because Is God isn't just a thriller. It is a deeply philosophical, visually stunning exploration of what happens when trauma is weaponized into holy command. This is the brutal geometry of rage. This is God Is Explained. Now you know the drill. Major spoilers ahead for the entire film, including the ending. So if you have not seen it yet, click off and come back later. All right, ready? Here we go. Synopsis and context. A deathbed mandate. To understand the film, we have to look at its foundation. Adapted by Alicia Harris from her own Obie Award-winning 2018 stage play, the story introduces us to twin sisters, Anaya and Racine. They bear the physical and psychological architecture of a horrific childhood trauma, third-degree burn scars left from a fire started by their father. For years, they believed their mother perished in that same fire, until a letter arrives. They travel to a sterile, sun-bleached convalescent home to find their mother, Ruby, played with an otherworldly, agonizing gravity by Vivica A. Fox. On her deathbed, Ruby gives them a singular biblical command: find the monster, their father, and execute him. The title Is God Is stems from the twins' internal mythology. Ruby isn't just their mother, she is the first person to look at them and validate their existence. To them, she is God. And when God asks you to pick up a weapon and smite your oppressor, it ceases to be a crime. It becomes a holy crusade. The architects, Harris, Bravo, and Thompson. The fact that this film exists in such an uncompromised, radical form is a testament to the creative powerhouse behind it. Harris teamed up with producers Janixa Bravo and Tessa Thompson, artists famous for championing bold, idiosyncratic Black stories. Harris makes the leap from theater to film with astonishing confidence. Often, play adaptations feel claustrophobic, trapped by their stage origins. But Harris, along with cinematographer Alexander Dynan, blows the walls wide open. They use the expansive, desolate iconography of the American Southwest to turn a family tragedy into a mythic, widescreen frontier. Dynan's camera switches seamlessly between intimate, claustrophobic close-ups on the sisters' scars and sweeping, saturated landscapes that evoke Sergio Leone. The world feels simultaneously hyper-real and deeply expressionistic, bathed in deep crimson reds and toxic neon blues. And we cannot talk about the atmosphere without mentioning the score. Composed by experimental artist Moses Sumney and Joseph Shirley, the music is a masterclass in tension. It blends traditional American blues with sharp, metallic electronic distortion, mimicking the crackle of the fire that permanently altered the sisters' lives. The performances, dualities of trauma. At the absolute center of this dark odyssey are the lead performances. Two-time Tony winner Kara Young as Racine and Mallory Johnson as Anaya. Their chemistry is the anchor of the entire film. Trauma manifests differently in everyone, and the film illustrates this duality perfectly through the twins. Racine is the shield. She is aggressive, outspoken, and quick to lean into the violence. Young plays her with a raw, kinetic energy that feels like a live wire ready to snap. Anaya, conversely, is the wound. She is quiet, deeply compassionate, and hesitant. Johnson's performance is heartbreakingly fragile. showing a girl trying to hold on to her humanity while being pushed into an abyss. When they finally track down their father, played by Sterling K. Brown, the film shifts gears entirely. Brown is terrifying precisely because he isn't playing a cartoon villain. He plays the man with a chilling, charismatic, stone-cold normalcy. He has moved on, built a wealthy new life, and fathered new children, treating his past horrific violence as a mere footnote. The juxtaposition between his comfortable, modern home and the scarred bodies of the daughters he discarded is deeply upsetting.
This Destiny type
Scene breakdown: the lawyer's office and the pool. Two scenes stand out as absolute masterclasses in tone and symbolism. The first is the encounter with Chuck Hall, their father's former defense attorney, played by Mykelti Williamson. When the twins corner him in his office demanding answers, Chuck communicates entirely via a whiteboard. In a horrifying twist, we learn why. Their father ripped out Chuck's tongue to prevent him from speaking. The scene perfectly illustrates Harris's ability to balance pitch-black comedy with visceral horror. The silence of the lawyer, the squeak of the marker on the whiteboard, and the escalating realization of the father's sheer brutality create an unbearable, surreal tension. It symbolizes how the monster literally robs his victims of their voice. The second scene takes place at the father's new luxury home, where the twins confront his new wife, Angie, played beautifully by Janelle Monáe. Angie represents the perfect, undisturbed bourgeois dream that the twins were denied. When Angie tries to flee, turning from fake sympathetic to utterly scornful, spitting in Racine's face, the illusion shatters. Racine beats her to death. The visual staging here is brilliant. The violence spills into a pristine azure swimming pool. The crystal-clear, aspirational American water is permanently stained by the blood of their vengeance. It's an explicit visual metaphor. You cannot build a clean, beautiful life on a foundation of unpunished atrocities. The ending: the price of righteous fury. This brings us to the devastating, yet entirely appropriate conclusion of the film. Is God Is does something brilliant. It makes us completely root for these women. Their rage is 100% justified. We want to see them tear this man's world apart. But Harris refuses to give us a clean Hollywood ending where the heroes walk away into the sunset. During the final confrontation, a brutal brawl breaks out as Anaya fights her father, with Racine rushing to her rescue. Together, they manage to beat him unconscious. In a poetic act of retribution, they place him in the bathtub to burn him alive, the exact horror he inflicted upon their mother. But the cycle isn't that easily broken. In a horrific final gasp of life, the burning man regains consciousness and drags Racine into the flames with him. Forced to flee the intensifying fire, a pregnant Anaya is left to escape alone, grieving the sudden loss of her sister. The angry twin, the one who fully embraced the bloodlust, dies. It's an ending that feels heavy, but it makes profound thematic sense. The film operates under an ancient, almost biblical moral framework. The wages of sin is death. It reminds us of a hard truth that many revenge thrillers ignore. Rage, no matter how justified, is a consuming fire. It doesn't discriminate between the guilty and the vengeful. Racine's life was entirely consumed by the mission her God gave her. By dying in the flames, she fulfills the cycle of violence. But it allows Anaya, the twin who was always more forgiving and fought to keep a piece of her humanity alive, to survive. The film concludes with Anaya carrying her child in her arms. She was the sister who leaned toward grace, and this final image beautifully demonstrates that forgiveness and letting go are not weaknesses, but a form of profound strength, one that ultimately conquers death and produces new life. Is God Is underperformed at the box office because it refused to play nice. It didn't fit into a neat marketing box. It's a film that demands you look at the physical and emotional scars of misogynistic violence, wrapped in the stylish clothing of a thriller. It is a tragedy that more people didn't see this in theaters, but cinema has a long history of cult masterpieces finding their audience long after the box office receipts are counted. Alicia Harris delivered one of the most uncompromising, visually arresting, and philosophically complex debuts of the decade. Do yourself a favor, find this film, watch it, and tell someone else about it. Because movies this bold deserve to be remembered. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe for more cinematic analysis, and let me know your thoughts on Is God Is in the comments below. Until next time, keep watching.